Hello and welcome to this Death is for the Dying Epitaph, a mini episode of the podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Richmond. And today, with me for the very last time this season, we have, as always, the podcast producer, Marco. Hey, Marco, how are you doing?
The the last time. The
The
last time.
last time.
Ah, what a journey this has been.
It's been a journey. It's like a over a full year's work to produce a season of this podcast.
It has been.
Like on top of doing our other jobs and other projects and all of that.
Yeah,
Um,
all this hard work for a minuscule amount of views, but that's okay because we love what we do, and we hope that you enjoy what we do as well. No, it's been like we started interviews in January, right?
oh,
And right now it's December, a couple weeks before Christmas. And by the
when
time
this
this
goes
is
out, it will be
released,
after Christmas.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to go out after Christmas. So I'm not going to lie. I coerced Rebecca into doing more of this because I firmly believed in the topic. I wanted to do more. I wanted to go beyond what we usually did because I felt like this topic warranted it.
Yeah. I mean, I was happy to do it. And like I have enjoyed doing these epitaphs. Um, Unfortunately, we haven't quite seen the return in effort.
Yeah, the return on investment has been pretty low, but that's okay. Like, who knows? We might find a viral moment. Maybe we'll have a viral moment in this episode.
Maybe
You
people
know,
will go back and see
I
all the
just
old ones.
exactly. I just hope I don't have to take any of my clothes off for that because if we do, then we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Yeah, let's not do that. But that is leading us up to the news we have, which is we are going to take next year off because
Yes.
it's been 4 years pretty constantly of doing this. And, we're not bringing in a big audience, although we love the audience that we have.
Mhm.
Um, but we need time off. We need time to figure out what we're gonna do in the next season, what iteration, how it would work. We want to make sure that we're putting out a good product and not just getting kind of mechanical about it. Taking at least a year off and see what happens from there.
Yeah. We need it. We definitely need it. It's been a labor of love, and just like any form of labor, you need to rest afterwards.
Yes.
So we definitely have earned our rest. One of the things I will be doing throughout the course of next year, hopefully, is uploading a lot of our back catalog to YouTube, because we got kind of started late to the game in terms of starting our YouTube channel. And there's a lot of good stuff that we've done in previous episodes. I think our season about immigrants is
Yeah.
is excellent. And I'm not saying that just because my mom's on it, but there's some really good stuff, and there is some work that we're really proud of, and we want to share with all of you that are out there, so that you can get a feel for like how we've evolved and how we've changed over
Yeah.
time.
It's
Because
been a journey. Like I think I'm impressed with how much we've grown and our ability to put out a podcast.
exactly,
Yeah.
pat ourselves on the back like this.
Yeah.
So, our last episode that we had in the season here was all about stories, stories about from our guests in terms of, death related stories. When we were prepping for this, I don't have any. I pretty much told all my stories throughout all the epitaphs so far, so I am tapped out. But, but our fearless host has a wonderful story that she would like to share with all of you. So, can you set the table and tell us what your story is about?
All right. Yes. So for 5 years of my life, I was trying to get a PhD in archaeology. And my advisor, Dr. Phil Walker, um, was a very interesting person. Very, very knowledgeable, but also a little bit eccentric. He actually died in my 5th year. He was one of the sudden, heart attacks in the night. Very, from my perspective, unexpected. He had apparently had several heart attacks before this, which he had not told any of his students about. So perhaps maybe not as unexpected as he would like to have pretended. But anyway, he had quite the sense of humor, and I always, thinking back, I remember a time when I was TAing for him, and I forget what course it was, human evolution, or I forget one of the other ones he was teaching, and he was going off like so you have to understand, like, he would occasionally do this, like just say things that were just to get a little bit of a reaction. And so like one time he was like, well, I think that if bears didn't have claws, men would want to have sex with them. To a whole
What?
crowd of undergrads. So that's
Wa- were the lectures so boring to him that he had to say that just to keep himself amused?
I don't know. Well, we were exploring human nature, right?
Okay.
Um, and the point was that men don't, and male species, the males of many species don't have high standards for sexual partners.
I mean, you don't have to go to an archaeology class or
Yeah.
biology class to learn about that. Like that, you just go
Yeah.
down the street and to a
Yeah.
bar and you would see that.
But anyway, it gives you and you would we do it very dryly. Um, so you couldn't quite tell that he was like ribbing you or if he was being serious. And so one time, and it's a class of, I don't know, 50 undergraduates, and he starts going off about how like aliens came down from Earth
Oh my God.
and all of this, and you can just see all the students going like, "What the?" And then this poor, sweet but brave student raised her hand, and she's like, "How do you know this?" And he's like, "Well, I Googled it." And
I was
yeah,
half expecting you to say they told me.
no, no, he was like, it was on the internet, so it must be true.
Oh my God.
That's kind of what I always think of when I think of Phil. That sense of humor and that just just wanting to step over the line a little bit.
That
Uh,
very dry sense of humor.
yes.
Very dry.
Yeah.
Sahara Desert dry.
He's also my favorite. He gave my favorite segue ever. I don't remember what we were talking about. Um, Something archaeological. This was when we were on a dig in Iceland, and he was just like out of nowhere. Speaking of shit, he wanted that we had a manure layer in our dig, and he wanted to talk about that. And so, like, speaking of shit,
That's the ultimate segue right there.
yeah, you can't get better than that.
God, now we're gonna have to put like warning labels on the episode. This episode might
Oh,
contain
yes.
graphic language. Ah, we were
We're
on a
this
hot
close to
streak.
being clean. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Ah, well, we've had swearing in this podcast before.
yeah, that's true. No, I don't have anything to match that. Um, I think about a lot of my friends and relatives and stuff like that that have passed away, and the great one of the great kind of um, things that I think we should all probably do is trying to keep people's memories alive by talking about them a lot and reminiscing about how things, happened
Or
or like when you were
so.
kids and stuff like
Favorite
that.
memories.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I just this past holiday at Thanksgiving, we had a Friendsgiving, and I got to see one of my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. And it was really cool because like, he was bringing up a lot of stuff that we did years ago. And one of the things that he kind of said to all of our kids was that you guys should be hopeful or pray that you get to have a bunch of friends in your life that you can have these types of conversations in the future, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And it's those connections that I think that make this whole experiment of life worth living more than anything else. And telling all these stories, telling the stories of how they lived, how they affected, people in their lives is such it's a thing that I think we need to do more of. We need to do more of it.
Yeah. We need to talk
Um,
about death more and the dead.
that's true. That's true. I feel more comfortable now after going through this entire process with you. Um, producing the podcast, talking to all these experts in the field and stuff like that. And I actually am now cognizant of how I talk about it with other folks. And I'm very kind of matter of fact about it now. And I'm very kind of realistic. If someone was to see me crying, perhaps, and they could be like, "Are you okay?" And I would be like, "Well, yeah, I just, you know, came back from a funeral, or, I had to go visit, or I just thought of somebody that, that I've been missing." Um, you could easily hide that under an excuse like, "Oh, I got allergies and, my eyes are watering because of that and made my eyes red." But I think now I would rather choose truth. I'd rather choose honesty
Yeah.
with people.
There's nothing to hide.
Hmm.
I think I think we try to hide it. We don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. Um, but I think it is damaging.
Hmm.
Pretend we're fine when we're grieving, or just, to not talk about somebody when they were a huge part of our life and still are a huge part of our life.
What do you think your biggest takeaway from the season has been so far? Have you had any new revelations, any new thoughts
I think
unlocked in your head?
I think I got the most out of speaking with Mara. That's not an aspect of death and dying that I had thought about that much before. So like I had, obviously, coming from a bioarchaeological background, I've had classes and, about the biological experience of death or the cultural experience of death. Um, and, very interested in sort of mortuary practices and expressions of grief and things like that. But talking to her about living the experience of watching someone so slowly dying, even though like I'm also in that situation, but it's also very
Hmm.
different situation where, my mom physically is not too bad. Although she doesn't walk, but that's more of a fear of walking,
Hmm.
not because she physically can't walk. Whereas Pat is kind of the opposite. And but it's also that he's young. He is, you know, he shouldn't be dying. And whereas my mom, is at the time of, she'd be a little bit young for it, but not wildly unexpected time
Right.
young. So just seeing how much she was fighting and how every day she was fighting for this. And that was just not not an experience that I had been exposed to before. So I think that was my big takeaway.
Do you feel
What
more
about you?
inspired now?
Sorry, what?
Do you feel more inspired now? Do you think you could, in that situation, be like her?
I don't know that I would fight as hard. I think I still am a very different person than she is. But I also, I guess there's more of a question for me about how I would react in that situation. I think I tend to be a little bit matter of fact about, well, people are going to die, and what is the point of struggling so hard against and being in so much pain?
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that that's how I would feel when it was really me, you know,
Yeah.
my loved one who was going through that.
Yeah. A lot of times we try to maybe think about how we would approach certain situations, and we have a logical part of our brain that says, okay, I can rationalize doing these things because this is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. But I think what Mara has demonstrated more than anything else is that her drive, her motivation comes from love.
Yeah.
It comes from love. It comes from a place that, you know, if you're fortunate to experience it in life, you understand. You get
Yeah.
it. And for me to see her continually working at it over and over, regardless of how she feels, it for me it's inspiration. For me, when I see her go through that, I would like to think I could do that for the person that I cared about as well. Um, and I think she's even admitted it herself that, you know, she probably prior to this, she probably would have had doubts as to whether she could do it.
Yeah.
But look at where she's at now,
Yeah.
and she's still doing it, right? Um, so I think we all have the capacity to to maybe extend beyond what we can
Yeah.
rationally think we can do.
Yeah. I will say, and I posted this on Instagram and Facebook earlier. Um, I actually had a family friend send me a book that she wrote called Bless the Birds.
Hmm.
And that is about her going through her husband's experience of watching her husband die of brain cancer.
Hmm.
And it's it's similar to what Mara is seeing, but again different because his behavior is altered. Some of the drugs that um, they put him on to suppress the tumors make him have like a hair trigger temper,
Oh, wow.
and so there's you know it's a different set of situation, but I mean it's Bless the Birds by Susan Twite. And actually I knew her. I've met uh um her husband, and um yeah, so it's sort of interesting to read as somebody who knew them, but it's also just sort of heartbreaking and raw and honest, um and just a really good read. And I think it would be a helpful book for someone who might be going through something similar as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Would
think,
recommend.
sorry,
I said would recommend.
would recommend, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Um, I think, as we kind of wrap up this season and with our audience, my hope is that this becomes a resource for other folks that are out there, that are experiencing, loss or terminal diagnoses or whatever. And to see and hear these stories from the folks that we talk to, from our perspective as well, to hopefully give them a little bit of knowledge that they can use, something that they can hopefully apply, maybe some comfort in knowing that they're not alone and a lot of the feelings that they're going through are normal and justified. And so, for me, that's kind of my hope and my biggest takeaway from for all of this is that You know, we put work into it because we know the value of this knowledge,
Yeah.
and sharing this knowledge with as many people as possible, um, hopefully will help at least one person out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all I can really hope for in in doing this, and hope people take it and talk about death.
Yeah,
Have the conversations. Um,
yes.
it's not as hard as you think it might be.
It just takes practice, just like anything else in this world. You have to practice it, and you have to do a little bit of self-examination on your side too. Examine if you are afraid of death, why? If there is something that's preventing you from living your best life, what is that? Right? If you haven't prepared for, your loved ones and setting up, wills and trusts and, deciding how you want to be buried or how you want your funeral to happen and stuff like that. These are things that you can do actively right now to get you more comfortable with the topic. And once you've gone through it, you're like, oh, okay. I know what's going to happen. I know what we're going to do. I can be a little bit more open about it. It's not like this taboo subject because
Yep.
I've got my house in order.
Exactly. Exactly.
Perfect.
All right, Marco. Well, as always, lovely chatting with you.
Always a pleasure for myself as well.
You don't have any clips of my outtakes.
I have nothing. I have nothing because you have been solid. You have been rock solid the entire time. Uh, I think you're turning off your microphone when you're making mistakes. Honestly, that's what I think is happening.
Action me.
Because you have been a 100% professional, and I will say to all you guys out there that are listening and watching, this lady has grown and evolved so much in this space that I can't mock it anymore. Can't mock it anymore. Can't do it. She's a pro now. She's an absolute pro.
Well, thank you, Marco. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you for all the work that you put in my early days of me swearing and,
Cursing at
yelling
your
at the
cat.
cat. Christmas cats. Yeah. Well, I hope people do reach out to us. Even though the season is over, we'd love to hear from you guys. We're on Instagram, and Threads, at Life is for the L. We're also, you can email us at lifeisforthelivingpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also comment on the YouTube channel. So if you have something to say, if you have thoughts or experiences, in dying, or watching someone die, probably not. If you have experiences dying, you're probably not going to be writing in the YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah, probably
Comments,
not.
but you never know. But grieving and talking about death, we would love to hear your thoughts on things. So hit us up, and
We'll be here.
yeah, have a fantastic 2025.
Exactly. We'll see you guys later. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.